We are free and ready. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm outside the Starbucks, and that means I am getting ready to sell a new piece of gear. Not new gear, but I'm selling gear that I've been using. And today we are selling the Canon EOS R. I realized when I did a review, the 48 hours with the R6, I never talked about the EOS R, and I think the EOS R is a phenomenal camera. Of course, every camera, there's no such thing as a perfect camera. There's always flaws, and there's other cameras that come out that make you realize, I want that. Like the Canon C70. I'm gonna have to do a video talking about that camera, but that is something that is already in my pre-order cart. We're gonna get back to that. But yeah, I'm selling my Canon EOS R. Usually when all of these new cameras are coming out, if I'm not using the camera as much, then I'm gonna sell it, try to get the best value at the time for that camera. The R6, which I'm recording on right now, I've been thoroughly impressed by it. I have my C-Log. I have my full frame in 4K, which I always wanted with the EOS R. When I bought the EOS R, I had a Canon C100 Mark II at the time. I wanted a B camera that can truly do 4K. My C100 only does 1080p, but it's a 4K sensor. But because I shot with an Atomos Ninja recorder, I would normally shoot 422 10-bit upscale the C100 footage to 4K to match it with the Canon EOS R if I needed 4K. But I was thoroughly impressed with the Canon EOS R because what the C100 didn't have that the EOS R had at the time is that the EOS R had face tracking. The C100 only had it with certain lenses, so I can put my Sigma, what is this, the 35 1.4 and face track and eye detect, which is amazing. In reference to my Canon C100, there's only certain lenses. Other than that, it was like center focus, and I can't tell you in my early days with the C100, running a gun, whoever the subject was would move out of frame, then the back focus on a wall, throwing out the shot. So that's why I always shoot with two cameras anyway, in case something goes wrong with another camera. I have a backup, even though my clients only require one camera. I always bring two. That's just a heads up. Always try to shoot with two cameras as much as you can, because you never know what can happen. With that said, that was a huge plus for me to have face tracking with every lens I put on my Canon EOS R. I thought that was mind-blowing. That's what later made me upgrade from the C100 Mark II to a C200 pretty quickly, because I was like, I want this on all my cameras. So that was huge. And the other benefit of the Canon EOS R, I had the C-Log to match with the C100 Mark II at the time. It had the photography aspect, 30 megapixel sensor. The two knocks that had me apprehensive about this camera, one of them I wasn't that concerned with. They had one SD card. Yes, the R6 do have two SD cards now, which is a welcome, but I never really have a problem. Now I have two SD cards in it because I'm selling the EOS R. Wasn't selling it with my SD card, so that's gonna move into the R6 as the backup. But I'm not a wedding photographer or videographer, so I think in those cases having two cards and recording simultaneously is huge. You know, every now and then I guess there's some client work where you could just give them the SD card so you don't have to worry about downloading 128 gigabytes of footage. At the end of the day, you could just give them over the card and just invoice them the bill of what the card would cost. In that case, that is an advantage. But other than that, that wasn't an issue with me. But the 4K crop was. There's a 4K crop on the EOS R of 1.74. And it's like 50-50 of the problem. Like I said, most of my client work was 1080p, so when I was shooting with the Canon EOS R in 1080p, it was full frame, and it matched very well when I had the Canon C100 Mark II, because the 1080p in the EOS R is 180 megabytes per second, which is huge because that data rate, like you have like the Sony a7S III, which shoots 4K at 100 megabytes per second. My Osmo Pocket is 100 megabytes per second. So when you're upscaling footage that has a lot of data, it is able to kind of resemble 4K without you noticing, especially if it's landing on YouTube. There's a lot of compression. It's going to be hard for you really to tell the difference unless you're pixel peeping and you're looking into the shadows and the leaves and zooming in 200% to see like, oh, it's not as clear right there. But with that said, you know what I mean, it's what, an apple to oranges. But yeah, so those are the two things. And once I got around it, I got the Metabone speed booster. I was able to nullify the crop from a 1.74 down to a 1.2, which was helpful for me. I like shooting with my 35 millimeters, or I like shooting with a 24. So with the crop being 1.74 was a little past 35. I just love the flexibility of full frame, the shallow depth of field, the bokeh in the background. Like right now I'm shooting with the kit lens, and it looks great because it's a 24 millimeter and it's a full frame camera. I think in 4K 60 on the R6 it's like a 1.1 crop, which is negligible. But overall, I'm so impressed with my R6. I'm letting my EOS R go. And just to kind of talk about how I rigged out my EOS R, like I said, it was my B camera to video production. I had the small rig cage. I put the top handle on the top. I put the side handle on the side. I put links down below in the description box of everything I'm talking about. But literally, it would be ran like this. This setup with the cage. I'll have the Atomos Ninja recorder on top. So when I want the 4K 422 10-bit ProRes coming from the EOS R, which was a welcome feature, which is a beautiful image, I was able to do that. And here's the thing that I didn't know in my earlier days in videography. I used to be like, I'm not shooting ProRes, I'm shooting on SD cards because I want to deal with those file size. But if you edit it on a Mac, key tip, when you're shooting on an Atomos Ninja recorder or anything that records ProRes, ProRes is a native language to Apple. So when you bring it in the Final Cut, you don't have to click optimize when you check that box. It's gonna come in faster, even if it's a larger file than the H.2.64 that normally come out of cameras in with the R6 H.2.65. Editing with an Atomos Ninja recorder or using ProRes is gonna be a way more efficient way than using a native codec from the Canon EOS R, just because ProRes are gonna move so much faster. So that's how I would have that set up. Atomos Ninja recorder on the top. I would use it right here because generally I used to put this light in the front. So now I had that set up. So I had that light right there. And then I would use the Rode video mic right here. So we would have this setup right here. We have the aperture light at the top. Then we have the Rode little video mic. Even in early days, I had the Canon C100 or I had the Canon C200. So I was using the audio mainly from my Canon C100 or my Canon C200. But this scratch audio using a Rode mic is a big benefit. And even if you don't have a C200 or another main camera, I think this audio is great. Not for like shooting a film, but like for scratch audio, running and gunning, vlogging, maybe some interview setups in a quiet place, you can get away with it. I think it just adds a lot to it. And it's always great to have an extra audio track in case somebody bumps your C100 or your main camera. It shouldn't happen, but just in case, you know, you can cut in and people might not be able to notice it as much. So it's a great benefit to have. So, and then when I got into ceremonic mics, because I used to always use the Rode video mics, it was mainly because the ceremonic mic, I don't want to take it off because I'm gonna have to cut the R6, can fit in this groove right here pretty smoothly. And the reason why that was huge, because sometimes I would take a splitter and run it into the Canon EOS R and have the Rode video go wireless system mounted to this. So I would have a shotgun mic, the wireless mic system, and mount it to this and put the video mic system if I was vlogging on me, or I would put it next to the talent as a third audio option because I was running two into the C200 or the C100 at the time. And yeah, overall that was my setup, and I love this camera. It's solid. One of the cool features about it is when you take a lens off a mirrorless camera, same thing as the R6, you don't have to worry about dust getting in the camera. Make sure the camera's off though, and that's a welcome feature, you know. So overall, I still think the Canon EOS R is something that you should consider if you got an RP, or if you have like, you know, a 5D Mark IV. If you have a camera that doesn't have C-Log, I think it's a welcome feature having C-Log on a camera, having a full frame sensor. The 1080p still looks good upscale, so you have that option to shoot 60 frames per second upscale and get a nice quality footage. In addition to that, you have the other benefit of the face detect, face tracking. You don't have IBIS. R6 has IBIS, which is great. The EOS R has EIS, electronic image stabilization. Basically what it does is it crops it on the image and kind of smooths it out. But overall, I love this camera. It was it really served its value. I made my money a couple times over using this camera. It was great. I wish I had it in my early days of vlogging, and I haven't been traveling since. So I think at the time, my last camera when I was traveling was like the Sony a6500. This is so much better in my opinion in terms of the colors right out of the camera. And what I was gonna say about the camera, the battery life is pretty solid. You know, pretty solid. It's the LPN E6 batteries. It's phenomenal, never had a problem. And then it has the USB-C charge port. That is such a key feature because I have a MacBook that uses USB-C, so when I come home, if my MacBook is fully charged, I plug it in. And then I also have mobile drives. You know, make sure if you buy a mobile drive so you can charge up your camera, it has PD, power delivery. You're gonna want that just so you can charge up your camera. So now I get unlimited record time hook it up to the Atomos Ninja recorder, let it run until the card is full, and then I have the USB-C charger, power delivery, keeping the camera powered up, which was just a cool feature. And then you got the Camera Connect app. As always, you can control your camera from your phone. Just a ton of quality from this camera that overall I love. Very durable. Flip out LCD screen, you should already be familiar with. But yeah, like, I think who should be in the market if you're a photographer? 30 megapixel sensor. My R6 only has 20, but overall, like, I'm not shooting big scale thing, and the sensor in the R6 is gonna be able to compensate for the lack of megapixels that the EOS R has. And I think it's still a great buy, especially when the 15 or 45 millimeter RF lens come out, because that was the biggest thing. Like, the only option you could buy was the 15 to 30, which is like a $3,000 lens, but the 15 or 45 is going to give you that ability to shoot 4K, 480 megabytes per second, and for like $400. Like, I love the RF 35 1.8 on that lens when I was shooting 1080p. Like, it was the perfect lens for me. But when it came to 4K, I felt like it was a little too tight. So if you're a current EOS R user, I would love to hear your thoughts, get some feedback. And if you have questions, comment down below, let me know. And if you're not subscribed, do subscribe now, turn on notifications if you want to see more videos like this. And yeah, until next time, stay creative, be courageous, and get on your grind.